Shoot the Breeze number 2.
Yeah. It's about time.
Mm-hmm.
It is the 1st of June. We're halfway through 2023.
Yeah.
We haven't done a Shoot the Breeze in quite a while, man.
It's been well over a year.
That long?
Yeah. So if you tuned in today to listen to all the aviation news, I'll give you a few seconds to tune out. Because, not a huge amount this week, Ryan. It was pretty quiet, a lot of the same. I thought maybe what we could do is use today as a bit of a recap to see what's happened through the year so far, where we see the industry and where we sort of see it going.
Yeah.
It's all been about recruitment, man.
Exactly. I mean, from the beginning of the year till now, it's just rapidly scaled up. I mean, to the point is we've got, 3 or 4 different airlines from around the globe coming to SA at the moment to do roadshows and recruit guys and poach South African pilots. It's it's massive.
Every week on the show notes, having a look last night in preparation for today, there's been some talk of recruitment news. But then you also get things. Wizz Air were here this week. I think yesterday they were in Cape Town. Very small turnout.
Yeah, 5 pilots.
5 pilots. Yeah, it's not what you'd expect. However, all those pilots in Cape Town that are flying for the likes of Link or Safair, they're kind of where they want to be in the world, and no airline job around the world is going to lure them away from that. You know what those guys in Cape Town are like.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So I predict the Johannesburg roadshow will be a hell of a lot busier.
I'm sure it will. I mean, look, I think this is where the larger populace of pilots are, is actually in Joburg, because that's where most of the work is and where most of the airlines are headquartered. So I'm pretty sure they'll have a bigger turnout in Joburg. But we've got Qantas Link coming here soon.
Yep.
So, and then Ryanair have just been here.
Ryanair are carrying on with their road shows all over the place. Emirates yesterday on social media saw they were advertising road shows, not in South Africa just yet, but obviously it's part of the tour. So stand by for an Emirates road show pretty soon as well.
Yeah.
So what's the threat? I mean, obviously, you say they're coming here to lure South African pilots away to foreign shores, and we've kind of been big proponents of the fact that this is an opportunity. And let's face it, in aviation, there's always these little windows of opportunity, and there's always the risk that you can miss the boat, and that opportunity might not always be there.
Yeah,
I don't so much predict that. I'm sure this is going to be very much a long-term issue that the aviation industry is going to have. It's going to be the shortage of pilots for the next few years. It's not like, you've got to get in now. But you know what it's like in an airline. You leave, your mate goes across to Aussie now, and you're a bit late. You haven't quite made the decision yet, so you wait an extra year. That extra year, the positions that you'll both hold at that airline might be very, very different. Your mate might be a skipper, and you might be, joining as a new recruit FO, and at a time maybe the shortage was a bit less. You know what it's like. So
with this industry, I think it chops and changes so much. I mean, it could be the reverse as well. You could go now or end up waiting a year, and then if you wait a year, the conditions that you go for then might be a little bit better. I mean,
that's true.
With guys moving fleets, you might end up going for a direct entry position versus sitting as an FO.
So you're saying it's not too much of a factor?
No, I don't think so. You got to do what works for you. I mean, I've had lots of people asking me, like, why aren't you running overseas? I'm like, well, don't want to go anywhere right now, and it doesn't suit me. So you got to do what's good for you, man.
I also think as well that because the recruitment opportunities have opened up in terms of obviously pilots, crew in general, the opportunities in other industries are there as well. Yeah. And there's a lot of movement going around, full stop. Now, I mean, look at us. We're in aviation, not necessarily flying at the moment, but still heavily involved in the industry. And I think there's a lot more movement going on than what we sort of originally think. You think about it just from a pilot perspective. And pilots in general, they make these moves all the time. Position themselves in the UAE for a few years and then over to to Japan or whatever. And a lot of guys end up in the States. So it's just I suppose, and why it's been such a big hot topic on the podcast and why we've spoken about it so much. A lot of the engagement that we've had, certainly, and I would say we have actually a new listener on the show, Ryan, a younger listener, a more inexperienced pilot than we did last year. It's getting like a lot of guys finishing off flight school, shooting us the odd message, what do you recommend I do next? And a lot of it's to do with opportunities. And that's why the podcast has kind of taken that sort of roadmap over the last probably 3 or 4 months. But I also took the opportunity yesterday, because one thing I have documented quite nice, all the show notes from basically episode 1 up until, where are we now, 139 or something. I've got them all in a very nice sort of chronological order. And I actually used ChatGPT the other day, and I threw a lot of those show notes in ChatGPT, and I said, give me, some key things from each of the shows. And what's quite interesting is the positive stories over the last sort of 6 to 12 months have just sort of skyrocketed. I mean, you go back a year and a half ago, whenever something positive came out, we were so keen to talk about it because it was like, thank goodness we got a cool story we can add.
Flash in the pan.
Yeah. Whereas now it's just the common thing. And you're talking about opportunities and moving and young guys getting into big airlines that ordinarily they wouldn't have the chance to. And it's just such an awesome time in aviation. And it's such a brilliant time for us to be commentating on the aviation industry. It's just an unprecedented time. We hope it carries on forever. But it's just, I just got a big kick out of it looking through those notes, You look back when we really started going through the whole pandemic. I mean, then it was near impossible to find positive stories every week. Yeah. But
it's
now
quite cool because, like, basically, I think what it does for us as well is, at the outset, we had to talk a lot and motivate ourselves and, be heavily positive. And that was what influenced the direction of the show. What's happening now is it's changing so much with, like you say, so much positivity. It's forcing us to talk more about how to stay motivated, what to do to keep yourself going and stay on top of things and keep that fire going. Because it's very easy to, once you've landed yourself in a comfortable position, sort of like take the back seat and say, okay, cool, well, I can sort of relax now. I'm where I want to be. And that's quite a dangerous sort of mindset to fall into.
What I've enjoyed, Ryan, is we based the show at the beginning, going back to the early 220, about motivation and being positive and, you know, and a lot of that sort of come back in the last sort of month, I would say, which is quite nice. And then what I also realized with the listener engagement now, how many people enjoy that sort of positive talk. So I want to make sure we keep that going. I think it's important to keep that going. But maybe what we can do now is also just take the opportunity. Let's talk about the podcast itself for a little bit. A lot of I want to put people's minds at rest. We certainly aren't going to be stopping the podcast. It's going to carry on. So I know we start every week and say, oh man, we're busy this week, but the podcast is going to carry on regardless. And like I said, definitely picked up a new audience in the younger generation. Want to keep that going. And we've made some software improvements over the year, a few little hardware improvements over the year as well. The biggest challenge for us, and I think it's a challenge that anyone has, so anyone that went and started a sideline gig, and we were big sort of trying to push people, if you've got the opportunity, if you're good at something, go start something on the side and run with it, even if it isn't parallel to your flying job. And I think that was good advice because you never know what's going to happen. And it also gives you the sense, I certainly know from us, it gives you the sense of control. We're in control of the podcast. Whether we do it or not is up to us. There's no one waving a finger saying you will do this. However, isn't it a challenge, Ryan, to scale and grow this podcast whilst maintaining the quality that you and I insist on for the show?
That's a hell of a challenge. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But that's going to be like it with anything.
Yeah, but take into account now. So I throw a question at you. Take anyone that's doing something on the side, got a little online business or whatever, but you're also flying your ass off at the moment. So how do you scale and grow it? I mean, I'm not asking you like you prepared for this answer, but it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Well,
you've got to make the time.
You got to stay committed, and you got to stay motivated. That's the only way I see it.
Okay, so where do you find the motivation?
Just dig deep, swallow a teaspoon of cement, and harden up. And
every day.
Yeah. Well, most of the time you'll find it at least once a week by listening to the Friday podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's the part of the aim, I suppose.
Exactly. No, look, to find the motivation, I suppose, man. How do you explain that? It's a tough one, but
I know
I think a large part of it comes from within. You either decide, are you started something, you want to see it to the end, or are you the type of person that's happy to be half-assed about things?
Yeah, I think you're right. Then on the other hand, you've got the added advantage of you've got your family there, so it's very easy to leave for work in the morning knowing, hey, you've got a responsibility, you've got to look after your family, and you want the absolute most for them. And obviously a lot of your motivation comes straight from there.
Yeah, that's where, 100% of my motivation comes from.
So, but you are still drawing motivation from somewhere. Every now and again, you need to go and either rely on a mate, rely on something, be it a podcast, be it even like one of those go-to movies that you used to watch that just gets you sucked up. But I find these days, Ryan, the amount of things available, certainly like on social media, like even like these little short reels that have 30 minutes of someone you admire speaking sense about something. Those definitely give you like a bit of a kick, Now's not the time to stop.
Yeah.
Keep going. But I still go back and I still believe as motivation is important, you're not always going to be motivated, but you can stay disciplined. So having that discipline is key. We are going to do the podcast regardless. We're going to be here and we'll find the motivation somehow.
Yeah, to me, that's one and the same actually. But yeah, you're 100% right, man.
But scale and growth is a difficult thing. So I know that these guys that do follow us, and a lot of them have started businesses. Yeah, one of the challenges at the moment, particularly with being just ultra busy. Every single pilot we bump into is flying flat out at the moment.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to change in the very near future. So, you've got to work around that. Is the flying job at an airline today? Okay, let's go back. You go back to you were flying charter, Medivac stuff, and you wanted to get into the airline side of things mainly because of the stability. You want a roster, and obviously the pay was stable and better at the airline you were going to at that stage. But stability plays a major role in that whole thing. Do the local airlines here in South Africa have that roster stability that you were looking for back then in 2010 when you went to an airline?
No, not by a long shot. I suppose it depends on the airline, and I'm talking in terms of the airlines that are in South Africa that I know of. I think it's very difficult because of the pilot shortage. They've got a lot of operational challenges, to deal with. And I from what I hear on the street, no, I don't think the roster stability is.
So the shortage of pilots comes with advantage to the pilots in that the opportunities available, but the job itself becomes a little bit more chaotic.
Yeah,
flying a bit harder maybe with a odd extra sector thrown in every now and again.
Yeah,
something to keep an eye on. I'd like to keep that as a added story, on the podcast, because I think it is important for people maybe sort of still coming into those airline jobs or looking at going into those airline jobs as to what they are getting themselves into. And we got a close mate that is, thinking about his next move and whether or not he should go. And I always maintain it's so important to go and do that airline flying and get that airline experience, because you're always going to wonder if you don't. You have to do it. You can't just you can just do charter forever, I suppose, but it is a step that you would be missing out in your career that you might regret at a later point.
Yeah, look, I think the fundamental difference between charter flying and the airline flying is the charter guys always have the desire to go into airline flying because it's bigger, faster, shinier aeroplanes, bit of structure in there as well. I certainly don't regret having done it. I value the experience. I mean, it's, we are who we are today because of that experience, and I'm glad we did it. But, is it all that attractive now? To me, no ways. To someone who's still entering the industry and young at the bottom, I say go for it. You got to go and see what it's all about and experience it, because you can always change lanes later on down the line.
Change lanes, I like that.
Yeah.
But let's shoot the breeze a little bit. What did you want to chat about today?
I don't know. I mean, I can't believe how quickly we've entered the second sort of half of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
we're sitting the other day saying, shit, okay, we're going to do the podcast on Thursday. It's the 1st of June. Like, hang on a sec, Yeah,
it's crazy.
I can't believe we've already...
The busier you are, I suppose, it's
just crazy,
things happen fast, and there's so much happened in the country this year as well that's had an effect on everyone, and everyone's dealing with their own crisis on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
And all that stuff adds up, and I think we felt it at times, and you end up getting yourself you can get yourself in a bit of a flap, Yeah. Your life just becomes a whirlwind. The Monday to Friday is blended into the next week without you even noticing. And I suppose for guys flying, it's even worse, because the weekend is not even divided. You don't normally get that Saturday and Sunday just to break the whole week. It's normally just blended all the way through.
No, exactly.
I spoke to a guy here at the Sim Center yesterday. He was saying, his issue at the moment is sort of flying 7 days in a row all the time, but he's kind of like stuck getting his days off on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then, so he hasn't had a weekend for ages.
And that's the kind of thing I don't miss.
No.
I mean, that's not cool.
No,
that's not a laugh. That's not living the dream.
No. That's paying the bills, but,
exactly.
But it ain't living the dream. Yeah, so I think the year has gone so quick. It's just been this bloody whirlwind.
But trust us as well, to have like a bit of a time compression thing, because we're working our hearts off. We fully dedicated to the podcast every week. We're both running young families, which is a busy one.
Yeah.
And then we decide to go and tackle on a few extra hobbies and extra shit for fun as well, which take up time. And so we are suckers for punishments in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But how have you found the jets, bro?
Yeah, so to fill everyone in on the jets, it's going well. I haven't missed a class this year, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, that's commitment.
That's discipline.
Consistency.
Yeah, no, it's very cool right now. I must say, I've enjoyed it. It's been such a cool thing to learn. Definitely have manned up a little bit there and become a bit sort of tougher in the fighting side of things.
Yeah.
It's just learning that new skill, which has been so important, that I've enjoyed more than anything else. But and a great bunch of guys. And what I have enjoyed the most is it takes you down a rabbit hole of something totally different that's actually separate from your monthly income. And I didn't realize how important that was, with the podcast, because it was so tightly attached to what we do professionally, work-wise. My life just sort of revolved around aviation, airline news stories and all the rest, which is great, and it still does, don't get me wrong. However, for that little trigger to have something that is totally left field of that, so you need something that is just, worlds apart from aviation.
Yeah.
And that's been the jiu-jitsu for me.
Yeah.
So it gives you that chance just to break. And particularly when you go and roll, rolling's like when you sort of, competing with someone else. If you are thinking about that email or, getting ready for this audit, or you're gonna get choked out. So you're always so focused on what you're doing when you're doing it, and that's in itself a really, really nice break. Actually, it's something I want to talk about on the show a bit later on after I've used it a bit more. But I got one of those Whoop bands. Rogan was anything Rogan recommends, I do. So those Whoop things, you can basically track it's like a health and fitness thing, but you can track what's going on with yourself by using data. So it's this band that you wear. And I want to know why on some days, let's take the podcast as an example. 2 weeks ago, we came here, Ryan and I were so well prepared for this podcast. We had notes, we had everything. We had, there was plenty to talk about. We did the whole show. It was an hour-long show. And as the show ended, Ryan was like, no, this show was shit. That was shit. This show's not going out. And I agreed with him. It was like not going out. I want to know now why that show was shit.
Yeah.
And you can actually do it through the data. So I'm busy trying to piece that all together. It's quite an interesting little side project that maybe I can talk about. But Toto Wolff was talking about it the other day because obviously he wants to operate at optimum all the time. He has to because Lewis is driving so cuck. That's a little side thing. So later on in the year, I'll report back on that. But just to get back to the jits, it's just been brilliant, right? Yeah, it's something I can tell that is going to be a long-term part of my life.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. And obviously on your side,
guitar-wise, the Geet, I absolutely love it. It's probably one of the best things I've tried to do in a long, long time as well. More for breaking that mental barrier of I'm 40 years old. I'm getting too old to learn new stuff, and
that's bullshit.
It is total crap.
Why do you think that in the first place?
I don't know. Maybe it's just like a thing that happens in society, or I don't know. People are wired that way. I don't know, but I'm loving learning this new thing. And like you say, you're getting the Whoop band because you're trying to figure out why some days you're just on top of the game and other days you just you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
I've ever experienced that as well. I had it the other day where some days you're practicing and you're going through something and you think to yourself, shit, am I ever going to get the hang of this?
You're in the zone.
Why do I do this to myself? A couple of days later, it was over the weekend, I picked up the guitar and I was strumming along, and the next minute something just clicked.
Yeah.
And it started happening. I could play a bit of a tune and it just felt good. It felt right. And I was like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Obviously a shitload of practice. But I suppose there's days when things are right and days when things aren't. And it'd be interesting to find out what it is that makes it happen and how you join the dots. But for me personally, the whole sort of never being too old to learn something new, I'm loving that, It's really cool. And
changes your mindset and other things, I suppose, as well.
You need that breakaway, like you say, from your daily grind. You need to be able to just focus on something totally different. And it's nice to have a really deep passion about something aside from the aviation and the podcast and that kind of stuff, And I suppose it sets up new goals as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this time next year, I'd dig to be, slamming a Geet at one of the stadiums packed with 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Either that or a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. And also, like you say, you enjoy the process of doing it. The process is probably more important than the end result. But I think just to have that little thing gives you that slight change of mindset, and you go out there and you actually end up doing better in other little parts of your life as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a little bit of an engine to keep you motivated in other things, So, look, loving it, and I'm going to be doing that for a long time to come as well.
Ryan, can we take the opportunity now as well in this episode just to, again, just punt the whole Patreon thing? If you do want to support us, Patreon's the place to do it. And, thanks to the people that support us there already. Has made a big difference this year. We have been able to save up a bit there and then make some improvements to the show, which is critical.
Yeah.
Because for us to be keen to do the show, you and I are both the same. We have to be using the best kit. I can't do this. If I know someone else has got a better mixer than us, then I don't dig that. We've got the best mixer, got the best sort of video switcher, and a lot of that stuff has come because we've had a bit of support on Patreon. So if you do want to support, that's the place to do it. Link, of course, in the notes. But regardless, the show is always going to be free. It's not like you're getting anything major extra there. But do want to take the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Your continued support is just totally awesome, and we couldn't do it without you. And
one of the things I do want to ask. Got a bit of an opportunity on this show to do it. Reading data and analytics and that from the podcast, not the easiest thing in the world, because you've got, so we put out the show on YouTube and a lot of people watch on YouTube. I'm quite interested to know if those people that watch on YouTube also listen to the audio. I'm inclined to think that
it's one or the other.
It's one or the other. Yeah, the audio does really well every week. Does better on Apple Podcasts than any other platform. Spotify, a close second. Spotify's getting a lot better, actually. I think once Spotify, we at the point we can actually do it now. I just have to figure out a few things on how to do it. It does increase the whole workflow a bit for me to get the video on Spotify. The question is, if I put the video on Spotify, is that going to make a big difference to a lot of the listeners, or is it much of the same? Are they going to listen to it on watch it on YouTube, or is it going to make a difference? Because the whole thing for me is to design the show. Obviously, the show itself has become easier enough for us to do now. We do the prep every week. We make sure we're here on time. We do the show. But obviously afterwards, there's a bit of work to be done. One or two little edits, and then you've got to actually get the show out to those platforms. And we've streamlined that whole process like you can't believe. If you go back at the beginning, right? Remember, you were trying to write the show notes. I was trying to edit this, and then
we were trying to pin up a green screen.
No, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Jeez.
But the post-show production now, I think, is a hell of a lot better. And I hope people agree with that. But yeah, quite interested to know where our sort of engaged listeners. So they say for a show to be successful, or a channel even to be successful, you only actually need about 1,000 engaged listeners. You don't need 10,000 subscribers. You need 1,000 people that listen to your show every week. And that is my sort of goal for the podcast, to have those 1,000 people. So this is a bit of a shout out as well to say, help us get that 1,000 people. We've got a lot more than that in terms of subscribers, but a lot of people don't listen to the show, watch the show every week. We want to get that engaged number up. So if you know anyone that you think will enjoy this type of content, and basically, straight from a aviation foundation, aviation training, airlines, the OEM news, recruitment, but then also a bit of a motivational angle and, focusing, every second or so week on the tech side of things as well.
Yeah.
If you know people that are into that stuff and you want to help us get those 1,000 engaged listeners, then please share it along. It'll make a difference.
Absolutely.
Paul?
Guys, it's been great.
Yeah. Formula One this weekend?
Yeah, we're in
Spain, I think.
Barcelona,
Yeah. It's normally a boring race, Barcelona race.
Yeah, look, following Monaco.
Max is on another level.
Yes, he's just racing like an absolute demon. I mean, no one could catch him. He was 30 seconds ahead of the pack the whole race on Sunday.
No, he's just remarkable, that guy. There's some UFC this weekend as well. There's the Whitaker Vicus Duplessis.
Is that
fight.
this weekend?
No, that's July 9th. That's the next. Well, there's a few big ones. Actually, almost every week there's some good UFC fights. There's, I I don't know the exact opponents this week, but yeah, Duplessis Whitaker, that's July 9th. That'll be a really good one. And yeah, this week is, like you said, Spain. I think there's another one the week afterwards in F1.
There should be, I think.
We also forgot last week to mention the fact that the Stormers were in the UFC final. What do you call it? United Rugby Championship.
Oh, that was right. Yeah, that was
they lost to Munster.
Yeah,
but they didn't play brilliantly there.
No.
So maybe it was good that we didn't mention that on the show. But yeah, some good sport on this time of year. Like Ryan says, middle of the year, and what better time to use to perhaps if you're in a slight rut, negative mindset phase, whatever, switch it around.
Yeah,
second half of the year,
on the back half, we'll start making our way back towards summertime here in South Africa, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the year, there's always that push to, I don't know if you find it the same. It's you gain a bit of momentum again towards the end of the year,
and then it stops because of the holiday.
Yeah.
So use the opportunity now to make the most of any changes you want to make.
Exactly.
For the good, of course.
100%.
Have a great weekend, Paul.
Take it easy, but have a good one.
Thanks for being here.
Of course, man.
Cheers,
Catch you next week.
Bye for now.
Ciao.